No one was meant to know I wasn't supposed to be on the executive floor. The envelope in my hands wasn't even meant for me. I only had one job. Drop it off. Walk away. That's it. But 30 seconds later, I found myself standing outside the CEO's office, listening to two voices behind a half-open door. One of them sounded nervous, the other sounded angry. Then I heard a sentence that made my blood run cold. If he finds out, everything's over. Silence. Complete silence. I should have turned around. I should have walked away. Instead, I pushed the door open. The voices stopped instantly. The office was empty, or at least, that's what it looked like. The CEO, Evelyn Carter, stood beside the floor-to-ceiling windows, calm as ever. Across from her stood Marcus Hale, our chief operating officer. He smiled the moment he saw me, but there was nothing friendly about that smile. It felt rehearsed, calculated, like he was trying to hide something. "The delivery?" Evelyn asked. I nodded and placed the envelope on her desk. Marcus never took his eyes off me. For a few uncomfortable seconds, no one spoke. Then he finally broke the silence. "You took your time getting here." His voice sounded casual, but it didn't feel casual. I apologized and quickly left the office. As the elevator doors closed, I caught Marcus watching me through the glass. He wasn't looking at me like an employee. He was looking at me like a problem. At the time, I convinced myself I was overthinking everything. I was wrong. That one delivery would pull me into a secret that powerful people had spent years trying to bury. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 36 years old. 3 years ago, cancer took my wife. Since then, every decision I've made has been for one person, my 8-year-old daughter, Emma. She's the reason I wake up before sunrise, the reason I work overtime, the reason I keep going even when I'm exhausted. Money was always tight, but I never let Emma see that. The rest of the day, I couldn't focus. I kept replaying those words in my head. If he finds out, everything we've built is over. Who were they talking about, and what exactly were they hiding? I told myself to forget it. It wasn't my business. I had a daughter waiting for me at home. I couldn't afford to get involved in corporate secrets. The next morning, Emma was unusually quiet during breakfast. She pushed her cereal around the bowl without taking a bite. "Dad, what happens if I can't go back to school next semester?" The question hit me like a punch. I forced a smile. "You're going back. I'll figure it out." She nodded, but I could tell. She didn't believe me. Neither did I. That afternoon, I was called to the executive floor again. This time, it wasn't by mistake. Marcus Reed was waiting outside the elevator. His smile looked friendly. His eyes didn't. "Walk with me." We headed down a long hallway lined with glass offices. Without looking at me, he spoke. "You seem like a good employee, Daniel. I'd hate to see someone like you lose everything over simple curiosity." I stopped walking. "I don't know what you mean." He smiled again. "I think you do." Then he leaned closer. "Whatever you think you heard yesterday, you didn't." Before I could answer, he walked away. My hands were shaking. That wasn't a warning. It was a threat. Late that evening, as I packed my bag to leave, my computer screen flashed. A new email. No subject. No sender's name. Just one attachment. A scanned document. At the top were the words, "Confidential. Internal investigation." I frowned. Who sent this? I opened the first page. Halfway down, one name made my heart stop. Marcus Reed. The second name was Victoria. Before I could read another line, the file suddenly disappeared from my screen. Someone had remotely deleted it. At that exact moment, my office phone rang. I answered. There was only silence. Then a woman's voice whispered, "Don't trust Marcus." The line went dead. I looked around the empty office. Whoever had called me was still inside the building. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the same words. Don't trust Marcus. Who was she? How did she know what I'd seen? And why was she risking everything to warn me? The next morning, I arrived at work an hour early. I hoped whoever had sent that email would contact me again. Instead, security was waiting for me. "Daniel Carter?" "Yes." "We need you to come with us." My stomach tightened. They escorted me to a conference room. Marcus was already there. So was the head of human resources. Marcus folded his hands on the table. Daniel, a confidential company file was accessed from your computer last night. I stared at him. I didn't steal anything. You opened a document that didn't belong to you. It appeared on my screen. I never requested it. Marcus gave a small laugh. Convenient. Then he slid a paper across the table. Sign this. I looked down. It was a resignation letter. If you resign today, we won't involve the police. For a second, I actually considered signing it. Emma needed me. I couldn't afford a legal battle, just as I reached for the pen. The conference room door opened. Everyone stood up. The CEO had arrived. Evelyn Carter walked in without saying a word. She looked at Marcus, then at the resignation letter. Finally, she looked at me. Daniel, did you access confidential files on purpose? I answered without hesitation. No. She held my gaze for several seconds. Then she turned toward Marcus. Cancel this meeting. Marcus frowned. Evelyn, we have evidence. She interrupted him. No. We have assumptions. The room went silent. Marcus wasn't used to being challenged, especially not in front of everyone. His expression changed for the first time. The fake smile disappeared. Something colder took its place. As I stood to leave, Evelyn quietly said, Daniel, my office. 10 minutes. I nodded. As I walked out of the room, I noticed Marcus watching us. His eyes weren't filled with anger anymore. They were filled with panic. For the first time, I realized something. Marcus wasn't trying to protect the company. He was trying to protect himself. 10 minutes later, I stood outside Evelyn Carter's office. This time, the door was already open. Come in, she said quietly. I stepped inside. She closed the door herself. Then, without saying a word, she walked to a bookshelf in the corner. She pressed something hidden behind a row of books. A soft click echoed through the office. Part of the wall slowly slid open. Behind it was a small private room. No expensive furniture, no awards, just old filing cabinets, a worn leather chair, and dozens of boxes labeled with dates. Evelyn looked at me. Everything Marcus has built his career on. It's all a lie. She handed me a faded newspaper. The headline read, Young Accountant Dies After Exposing Corporate Fraud. I looked at the photo. My heart stopped. It was my father. The man I had been told died in a car accident when I was 12 years old. I looked up at Evelyn. She nodded. He wasn't killed in an accident. He was trying to expose the same people I'm fighting today. My hands began to shake. Marcus worked for them even back then. I couldn't breathe. Everything I believed about my father's death was a lie. Evelyn opened another file. Inside were bank records, witness statements, court documents, and one signed confession that had disappeared years ago. I've spent 12 years collecting this evidence, but I can't release it. If I do, they'll destroy it before the police ever see it. She looked directly into my eyes. But they don't know you exist. They've been watching me, not you. Before I could answer, the lights suddenly went out. Complete darkness. Then, the emergency alarm started screaming throughout the building. Evelyn looked toward the window. They know. At that exact moment, the office door exploded open. Marcus stood there with 3 security officers behind him. His fake smile was gone. So, you finally showed him the truth. He slowly stepped into the room. Then he looked at me. Daniel, you have 30 seconds to decide. Walk out with me, and your daughter stays safe. Stay with Evelyn, and you'll never see Emma again.